Hello everyone, and welcome back. Today the Silent Observer is going to talk about three of the most outrageous and disturbing experiments ever conducted on humans. These experiments were done without the consent or knowledge of the subjects, and often resulted in death, injury, or permanent damage. Some of these experiments are so horrific that they may give you nightmares, so viewer discretion is advised. The first experiment we're going to talk about is the Tuskegee syphilis study. This was a 40-year-long study conducted by the U.S. Public Health Service on poor black men living in rural Alabama. The men were told that they had bad blood and were given free medical care, food, and burial insurance for participating in the study. However, they were not told that they actually had syphilis, a sexually transmitted disease that can cause serious complications if left untreated. The researchers wanted to observe the natural course of the disease in black men and deliberately withheld treatment from them, even after penicillin became widely available as a cure in the 1940s. The study was exposed by a whistleblower in 1972 and resulted in a public outcry and a congressional investigation. The study was finally terminated, but not before 128 of the 399 men with syphilis had died from the disease or its complications. 40 of their wives had been infected, and 19 of their children had been born with congenital syphilis. In 1997, President Bill Clinton issued a formal apology to the survivors and their families, and established a fund for their medical and educational needs. The second experiment we're going to talk about is Unit 731. This was a secret biological and chemical warfare research unit of the Imperial Japanese Army that operated during World War II. Unit 731 was based in Pingfang, China, and conducted gruesome experiments on thousands of Chinese civilians and prisoners of war, as well as some Russians, Mongolians, Koreans, and Americans. The subjects were exposed to various pathogens such as anthrax, plague, cholera, typhoid, and syphilis, and were dissected alive without anesthesia to observe the effects of the diseases on their organs. They were also subjected to frostbite, burns, pressure chambers, blood transfusions, injections of animal blood or seawater, removal of limbs or organs, and vivisection of pregnant women and their fetuses. The experiments were intended to develop weapons of mass destruction and test the limits of human endurance. Unit 731 was responsible for some of the worst atrocities committed by Japan during the war and killed an estimated 250,000 to 300,000 people. After the war ended, most of the members of Unit 731 escaped prosecution by granting immunity in exchange for their data to the U.S. authorities. The third experiment we're going to talk about is Project MK-Ultra. This was a covert program of mind control experiments conducted by the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, from the early 1950s to the early 1970s. The project involved the use of various drugs, especially LSD, hypnosis, electroshock therapy, sensory deprivation, isolation, verbal and sexual abuse, and other forms of torture on unwitting human subjects. The aim was to find ways to manipulate human behavior and mental states for espionage and military purposes. Some of the subjects were CIA employees or agents who volunteered or were coerced to participate. Others were prisoners, mental patients, drug addicts, prostitutes, or ordinary citizens who were unaware of what was being done to them. The experiments often had devastating effects on the subjects' physical and mental health. Some suffered from psychosis, amnesia, depression, or suicide attempts. Others died or disappeared without a trace. The project was exposed by investigative journalists and congressional committees in the mid-1970 SS. However, many documents were destroyed by the CIA director in 1973 to cover up the illegal activities. These are just some examples of the absurd science experiments that have been done on humans throughout history. There are many more that we don't have time to cover in this video. Some are still classified or unknown to this day. These experiments show us how far some people are willing to go in the name of science or power, how they can disregard human dignity and rights, how they can inflict unimaginable pain and suffering on their fellow beings. They also remind us why we need ethical standards and regulations for scientific research, why we need to protect human subjects from exploitation and abuse, why we need to be vigilant and informed about what is happening in our world. Thank you for watching this episode. If you want to hear more from the Silent Observer, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. And don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified when we upload new content. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.